Hi everyone, Eric at Retro Handheld Guides, and today we're going to be taking another look at the Miyoo A30. So since the initial release, the Miyoo A30 has gotten a firmware update which has increased the brightness on this particular device. As well, they've also updated the package for the main SD card, which they claim has also removed some of those issues that were available under the original release of the firmware. To try and remove some of those weird settings that were present in the initial release, including those weird filters that were on some of the emulators. Unfortunately, I found that those didn't actually change, so there are still issues with the main operating system. So one of the things that I'm going to take a look at today is actually two new community options for the Miyoo A30 that will change the standard configuration that is available on the Miyoo A30. So that includes RA30 by Jim Gray, as well as BTN, which stands for Better Than Nothing by the RA30 team. And those both will pre-configure the system for you, as well as change out some of the menus to make it a little bit more intuitive and make those emulators work a little bit better, improve the battery life, etc. So let's take a look at some of those new community options that are available for us on the Miyoo A30 and see if that helps to improve this device at all in terms of making it a little bit better for performance and a little bit easier to use than was available under the standard operating system that was created by the Miyoo team when they first shipped this device. Here we have RA30 by Jim Gray. The purpose of this is to have everything pre-configured for best optimization on this particular device. So it does take out a lot of those weird configurations that were created at the stock Miyoo A30 SD card. So things like those filters and things like that. They've also set the clock speeds per system to balance the battery and performance, so it'll scale up the CPU when you are using those higher end systems and scale it down for those lower end systems so you're not wasting battery unnecessarily. And then it's stripped everything down just to the pure RetroArch cores and tried to optimize the menus to just use a standard configuration. Now with that, it means that we also don't have access to the menu that was available inside of the stock operating system. As well, you can see here that we also now have autosave and resume functionality enabled by default. So the hotkeys have been configured so that you can access quickly all of the hotkeys that you want. Here we have Mega Man X running at 60 frames per second by default with the hotkeys enabled inside of our system. And then the menu key doesn't actually do anything. You only have access now to RetroArch, which is available under Function and A, and then everything is going to be in the RetroArch menus that you're going to be doing everything. So that is the Mega Man X on SNES. If we go into some of the other systems as an example, one thing I noticed is that some systems are missing here that were available in the stock operating system. So for this example, Arcade is not here, MAME's not here. And the PSP has also been replaced with the RetroArch cores rather than the standalone core that was available in the stock. That does give you a more consistent layout and configurations options, but the standalone core does have some better performance as well as better compatibility. So here as an example we have NHL. NHL is running right now at a frame skip of 1. The auto frame skip does not work very well inside of the RetroArch cores. So you can get a better performance with the stock, but here at least they're trying to give you a more consistent experience with this. So that is going to be your RA30. Overall, I like it. It does simplify things quite a bit. It also has a nice configuration to make it a little bit easier to navigate and to use the functionality that you want. Alright, so here we have BTN by the RA30 team. As you can see, BTN stands for better than nothing. So similar to RA30, they've pre-configured all of the RetroArch systems to remove a lot of those weird configurations that were created by the Miyoo standard firmware. This one does still use a lot of the same cores that were available inside of the stock, but with the pre-configured menus, we hopefully have better performance. So as is the case for things like your Super Nintendo. Here we have Mega Man X running again. Again, this one does also put a number of the basic hotkeys onto your face button. So function plus Y is also going to show us our frame counter in the lower left hand corner. And then you can see here as we boot it up, we should have better performance now than the stock with things like Mega Man, because they've removed those weird settings that were created for the main one. So here is Mega Man running. One big difference here between this and RA30 is that the load and save states is not automatically enabled for quitting and resuming. You can do that yourself through RetroArch if you do want. So that improves the performance there. This one also doesn't have the start and select for your main menu, quitting and exiting. You still have the Miyoo basic functionality in here, so save states and load states are done here at the function key, and exit is done here as well. One thing that they do keep intact in this particular firmware is the PSP. So PSP does still use the PSP main core. So as an example, when we load up PSP, it is using the standalone version of PSP. That also gives us some better performance for PSP if you do happen to want to play PSP on this device. Again, you're going to be limited pretty heavily to just the lower end emulation for those kinds of games, but at least in here we do have those options for things like using the frame skip and using the graphics options that are available. They've also fixed the menu for PSP in this one. Now if you press the function key at the top, it brings it right in. Stock actually had that broken where it would automatically kick you out of the game. But here you can see we do have access to the standalone PSP emulator for things like NHL. We'll just try and jump into a game really quickly here to see what the performance is like. Overall, it's got better performance only because you have access to things like your auto frame skip, which does help a little bit, as well as some of those other configuration options for graphics that allow you to tune things specifically down to just the graphic settings that you want. So overall, I think that the better than nothing, the BTN updates do pre-configure a lot of those things that were kind of janky about the standard stock firmware, so that you don't have to go in and mess around with those settings yourself. Here you can see PSP is playing again with the auto frame skip on. It's running at about one frame skip. Occasionally it'll do a little bit better, so that's where your auto frame skip is going to help, rather than just setting a straight frame skip that is only available through those through the RetroArch cores. So for PSP, again, you might want to try this one rather than the RA30. But overall, both of them do a good way of pre-configuring those RetroArch cores, so you don't have to go in and kind of fixes a lot of those issues that were present in the stock OS. So if you're interested in either of those particular firmware updates, be sure to check them out. I've put links to both of them in the description below. And hopefully we'll see more community uptake on the Miyoo A30 as we begin to hopefully see more popularity in this device. I know that there is also a post by the Newly team showing that they have an initial OS running in a pre-alpha state. So maybe, you know, fingers crossed, we're also going to see things like Newly on this device to help customize the firmware on this even further and hopefully see some better performance out of the Miyoo A30.